Royal Queen Seeds Interviews.
Yes, I am so glad you brought this up because when I started the Mommy Jane, I was writing for Direct Cannabis Network, and my column was called Consciousness and Cannabis, the Conscious Cannapreneur, something along those lines. And because I was always really big on the mindfulness that cannabis brings to us. So the Rastafari, they understood that this is a third eye opening plant. You know, it connects you to your mind, body, soul. And I've realized over the years that if you don't meditate, cannabis usually leads you to it. And if you meditate, you know, it's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? But eventually those two worlds combine, you know, whether it's through our events. We do use meditation during a big thing called BizCon in Las Vegas. It's a big convention. Yeah. And I remember before events, we would have Ms. Kindness lead the room, and we would do group meditations together, setting intentions for the industry, setting intentions for our souls that night, setting intentions why we use that plant. And I think that's where the big stigma lies, is the fact that there is that disconnection sometimes of why we choose to use that plant, and the mindfulness on how we choose to consume it, and how our lifestyle embodies it as a wellness tool. You know, are we doing those other things like meditating, drinking water, eating a balanced, lifestyle, and just making sure that we go outside and connect with nature? Or are we just using cannabis as a tool and expecting it to change everything for us, you know? And I've seen both sides of that coin. So I think it's very important for us to respect the roots of cannabis, understand where it comes from, and understand that this is a very powerful tool, and it needs to be respected. It needs to be used mindfully, and the stigma will always be attached if we don't start to use it as a vehicle for good. You know, I always tell my children that I have spaghetti brain. As a mother, as a human, I feel like just a spaghetti plate sometimes of thoughts and feelings and emotions. And when I sit down and I decide that this is the moment we're going to just be mindful and be present and meditate. And when you use cannabis, it absolutely kind of just balances and takes all those thoughts and becomes one single strand of pasta. I tell them I can focus on that one strand at a time that I can choose. And once I'm done examining or digesting that one, I can pick up another noodle and slowly go at it instead of just taking spoonfuls and trying to digest it like I do during the day. You know, it's important that we once again, see it as a tool, because if we don't, it can open up. People always say, oh, cannabis makes me think about things about myself that I don't really like. Well, what is it about your life that you need to change? What the enlightenment that's being brought forth on why are you feeling guilty about something, or what do you think needs to change in your life that's making you feel that sort of shame? Because cannabis is not a low vibration frequency. So why are you on that cosmic level when you choose to use that plant medicine? You know, it's an opportunity for us to dive deeper, understand ourselves better, and change who we are. I was such a more violent person, a more aggressive person. My mood swings were frequent, and I had no control over myself or my attitude. And when I started to practice using cannabis intentionally, visualizing it and using it as a plant, and discussing it as the plant that it is, and it's not just a recreational tool to have fun, everything changed. You know, my children's perspectives changed, my family's perspective changed, and I was then able to help heal others, or show them, not me myself, but show them the healing powers that they can do themselves when one is led to cannabis. Because it just takes, the right sort of education, the right sort of verbiage, and the right sort of connection, and realizing that this plant has been around for thousands of years for a reason. The Rastafari have used it for thousands of years for a reason. So we have to respect the fact that this isn't going anywhere. How do we modernize it in a respectful way? How do we, use it as the superfood that it's intended to be? I mean, it really is the world's greatest superfood, and we don't even realize it. We give kale and blueberries and walnuts all this credit, and don't get me wrong, I love a good superfood, but what about the cannabis plant? What about the fact that there's healing cannabinoids and receptors built in our bodies ready to receive this plant. And what about the fact that there's so many varieties because there's so many of us, and maybe one plant doesn't work for someone, but it will work for another. It's just absolutely remarkable how personalized this medicine can be if we allow it to be. I personally have experienced the healing benefits to all of the above that you mentioned. If anybody's been following me long enough on Instagram or have come across my website, The Mommy Jane, you've seen that there's been a tremendous change. I mean, a complete 180, really. Who I was 4 years ago and who I am now, I don't even recognize that woman. And it's such a beautiful thing, you know. There's a golden Buddha in all of us. You know, we always hear that legend of the mud-soaked Buddha, and when they were cracking away at that mud, the cracks started to show the gold underneath. And I feel like when we get to that point in consciousness and we start to realize that we have that potential in us, that's another thing that cannabis can do for us. That's another tool that it can provide for us. If we're using it consciously and we're using it in a healthful way, oh my gosh, I didn't realize the benefits that can trickle out. You know, once you find one healing modality, it can help with your exercise. It can help, like you said, replace your alcohol routine. I realized, like, hey, I'm way more relaxed and less, aftermath if I use just cannabis alone, or, sometimes in conjunction. So maybe one glass of wine instead of 5 or 4, and a little toke or a little edible or whatever suits your mood and what you need that day. My consumption varies day to day, depending on, what I'm doing. And, some days I don't get to have the full, THC effects until after hours. And that's just part of life. And some of us, have the ability to use it all day long and are able to conduct work. And that's a beautiful thing too. And that's the great thing about this plant is it is so versatile. It is so multifunctional. And there's so many different ways we can see healing in this plant if we take that time. So yes, you can replace it with your wine, which will then help you lose weight because your caloric intake goes down and you're not as tired anymore. So you go out and go for that walk in the morning or hit the gym if that's what you prefer. And so many different little changes that can happen once we start to utilize that plant in a really mindful approach. And, maybe we don't use Tylenol as much for our aches and pains, which is way better for us. So we're not destroying our liver. So we're not taking Tylenol as much anymore. We're not drinking alcohol as much anymore. We're being a little bit more mindful because I also do believe it makes us more conscious of what we're eating and how we feel. And I tend to crave a little bit more fruits and vegetables because of this lifestyle. And I think it leads us to these more mindful and conscious decisions, whether we realize it or not. Who we're hanging out with, the music we listen to, how we dress and think and feel, all becomes influenced eventually once we start to focus in as a health and wellness module. To answer the first part of the question, it depends on the time of day. What I'm doing will determine on the cannabinoids that I do use. I am very favorable to CBN. I haven't discussed this enough on my page yet, but I will discuss it with you. First and foremost, everyone believes CBN, and I'll get to THCV as well. I always say minor cannabinoids impact in a major way. Everybody calls them minor cannabinoids. Don't think that they do minor work. They work big time. So for instance, CBN, on the days where my anxiety, I actually take CBN daily. And if I don't, my anxiety is very severe. The CBD does not help it. CBN is, for those of you that do not know, CBN, 2 milligrams of CBN is an equivalent to diazepam, like a I believe it's 10 milligram dose of diazepam. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you can do the research yourselves, but very similar effects to diazepam, which is a pill that I was on. I used to be on SSRIs. I was on antidepressants. I was on anti-anxiety medications, and they weren't beneficial to me. The side effects did not outweigh how I felt, and it wasn't as consistent, and I just didn't enjoy it. And then I know there's so many people that use cannabis in conjunction with plant or with pill medicine, and that's wonderful. Yeah. Whatever works for you, I'm so grateful you found that for you. But for me personally, it wasn't working. So I was very, very excited and very, very grateful when I discovered that plant medicine can mimic the same effects of the pills that I was taking with less side effects. I do use CBN on a transdermal gel from Mary's Medicinals every day. For instance, yesterday I forgot to take it and I got to the bank and I was like, really jittery. And I was like, oh, you forgot to take the CBN today. So Hazel, my body can tell within hours if you haven't had, what you need. And so, and then to talk about THCV, that was really the big cannabinoid that got me to start the Mommy Jane, because I had gained weight during my pregnancy. I had gained weight postpartum because I was depressed and because I was breastfeeding, and they were telling me to eat steak and potatoes and drink Guinness. And, I was just listening to what the doctors were telling me and, eating emotionally, because it's so hard and scary to have a child. I know it shouldn't be, but it really is. I wish we were supported better. Maybe we are in other countries, but in America, we're not very supported as mothers. And so it's just not as a positive experience as I think it could be. I didn't receive that positive experience. But both of my children, unfortunately, I suffered postpartum. And so gained a tremendous amount of weight and was having a really hard time parenting because I was drinking at night. I was overweight. I was unhappy with my life. I was unhappy with my marriage. I was unhappy with my relationship with my kids. And it was just all around a mess. And did a lot of research, hence the Royal Queens. I was able to find your blog. Very grateful early on, because you were the first and foremost at education. And that was really important to me, because there wasn't a lot of education on social media at the time, and the little that was because of your screenshots that you would also promote. And I would sometimes, when I started the Mommy Jane, I would do, the reshares and everything, because there wasn't a lot going on back 4 years ago, or the little that was out there, and being able to come across yours. And so when I saw those things where I realized, oh my gosh, there's minor cannabinoids, there's terpenes, we can use this to lose weight instead of increase our weight. So I wanted to break the stigma with cannabis that it's this lazy stoner sitting on the couch, eating everything in sight sort of thing. And I wanted it to be seen as a wellness functional medicine, and it can be used to actually lose weight and better your life and get off of, the pills if that's your choice, and get off the alcohol if that's your choice, and, really be a wellness tool that it was always used for, it always intended to be. And so I took the initiative and I educated myself on the endocannabinoid system. I educated myself on minor cannabinoids, and I came across THCV, humulene, which is a terpene. And I realized that those things, which are also found in foods like grapefruit and stuff that we're used to all the time, terpenes are actually found in other foods, because cannabis is a superfood. So terpenes reflect those similar profiles. And if you look for strains that are high in THCV or high in humulene, those are going to be appetite suppressants, and as opposed to what cannabis is also very popular for, appetite increasing. So for cancer patients, heck yes. For eating disorders, absolutely. Use those tools and increase the appetite. But for someone like myself who is heavily obese, and doctors were concerned, and we were, wondering what could I do at this point, because I was doing everything in sight and nothing was working, and I really just needed a huge shakeup. I needed a lifestyle change, and cannabis was that connection for me. Cannabis brought that consciousness forward that wine wasn't doing for me. Exercise alone wasn't doing for me. It needed to be that breakthrough for myself to make those big changes and give you that confidence to make those changes too, because it's a mood booster. It's a confidence booster. And I read a couple of weeks ago, it used to be called the plant for sorrow, the medicine for sorrow. That hit me so much, because as someone who suffers with anxiety and depression, that really hit the nail on the head. Yes, I actually was mentioning microdosing earlier when I was talking about my CBN. If I took a tremendous amount of CBN during the day, I'd be asleep by 4 o'clock. If I take a tiny amount, which I do, I don't even do the full dose of the transdermal gel pump, because it is so important. We're going to be at that point soon where cannabinoids are going to be, you can dial it in. So you'll be able to order a tincture that's like, okay, 2 milligrams of this and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I truly believe that cannabinoid medicine is so important, and give all cannabinoids a chance. THCV is not for everyone. My husband is not a fan. He has a very low tolerance for THC. And so if he has more than 2.5 milligrams, it is a whole new world, and not in a good way, Yeah. So we tend to stick to CBD, CBC, CBG, ones that help with focus, ones that help with creativity. Not all cannabinoids get you into that realm of psychoactivity. Some things are that psychoactivity of just bliss. We can't say that CBD isn't psychoactive, because it absolutely is. It definitely changes the way I think and feel. When I take CBD, I am in a more blissful state. So to my perspective, that is some sort of psychoactivity in a very helpful and microdose sort of way. We're not going and we're not taking, unless that is your intention. Yes, that's a different story. We're not taking, 90% THC or THC dabs for a reason. When we're looking in a microdose form, in a mindful, intentional form, we can use it and our body receives it actually better. I've been hearing a lot lately that a magnitude of overabundance of cannabinoids is actually not as positive as it seems. When you have cancer and you take a lot of THC, that can actually multiply your cancer cells. So you have to be really mindful. That's why CBD has so many breakthrough and so much importance that we more than we give it credit for. We always say, oh, CBD snake oil and this is this and that. No, this plant has so many benefits that we can't discredit anything. And the thing is we don't even know about all the minor cannabinoids yet. We haven't even discovered everything because we haven't had the opportunity to research everything yet. Yeah. Imagine what we're going to find out 10 years from now. And the hundreds of other minor cannabinoids and other terpenes and other wonderful strains that can come about that are going to be beautifully blended to be in a healing capacity, what it's intended for. And yes, cannabis has a place and time for recreation and go at it when it's necessary. But I really do believe the stigma lies in the fact that we aren't making enough strains that are compatible for health and wellness. We need more 2-to-1s. We need more THCV strains. It's so dire. It's so hard to find a THCV product. I know. It took so much research, so much Leafly and Weed Maps and all those things. I'm reading whose carries it. And sometimes I'd have to search through 8 different delivery menus, and that takes time. It shouldn't have to be that hard for us to find medicine. I hope there's a day that I can go travel to Massachusetts, or I can travel to Florida, or I can travel to Wisconsin, or even the UK, and I can find the medicine that I'm looking for no matter where I go. Oh man, this is a heavy one because I've been feeling a lot of emotions about this industry lately, and it's hard for me. We all have to be successful to some extent, and obviously that requires money and monetary value. But I feel it's reached a point where it's just become this very commercialized entity, and people are just throwing themselves on brands and companies and products that aren't worth anything to be giving to they're taking advantage of their viewership. They're taking advantage of their community. And it hurts me so much to see ill-informed, people, and they're very popularized and they're very well liked, and they're well liked because they're very recreational based and they're not education based. And it's very hard to be well liked in this industry when you're education focused, which is ironic because our stigma is attached to the fact that we all aren't educated enough on cannabis. So I believe eventually the plant will show the truth, and only time will tell that these companies and influencers and personal brands and all these things that are popping up will eventually fade out with time, and the sun rises and sets and it comes in truth. But to also go back and understand this, the cannabis plant shares the truth of so many aspects beyond what the falsities of the industry can be, beyond what the truths we hold within ourselves. It sheds a light on so many things. I feel like as an empath, that I'm able to understand so many other truths of the world because of cannabis. It shines a light on the truth of your health. It shines a light on the truth of your mental health. It shines a light on the truth of your family. Cannabis saved my family because I was able to save myself, and in saving myself, I was able to help others, and helping others helped me improve myself, which led me to my family again. And it's all about how we use it. We can use this, and I could have used cannabis to destroy my family. I could have used it to destroy my life. It would have been awful, because I would have just been part of that stigma again. And I was adamant about breaking the stigma so that other parents could talk about it, so other parents could use it to benefit their lives, so other parents wouldn't be ashamed to realize that it's just a plant. It's a healing entity, and it's been used for thousands of years for a reason, by royalty, by farmers, by the common people, from everyone around. It's been used for just so many versatile reasons. And if you haven't done your research on the history of cannabis, please do yourself a favor and educate yourself. And if you haven't educated yourself on the endocannabinoid system, please educate yourself. Our bodies make cannabinoids also naturally. It's in our breast milk when we feed our children for the first times. That's what teaches our children that this is how we eat. Appetite increases since day one. When we're singing, when we're dancing, when we're running, we are creating cannabinoids. It's so naturally occurring. It's absolutely unbelievable that we are criminalizing nature. We are criminalizing ourselves because it's what is made up of us. We are made up of cannabinoids. We make up cannabinoids, and we have an endocannabinoid system. So it's a crime on us. It's a crime on humanity. It's a crime on human rights that we don't get to utilize this plant in the way that it was intended. You know, I went the route of self-medicating and titrating myself off of SSRIs. I probably should have sought a professional, but at the time I was very afraid of them trying to talk me out of it. I didn't want someone telling me, don't do this. Are you sure? You're a parent, yada, yada. I was not in a supported community at the time. A lot of Southern California is not a very supported part of the state. So, you know, and it's just, there is still a stigma attached, you know, it's very bizarre. So I had to be very mindful about not telling people, and I self-medicated. But at the time before that, I was self-medicating with wine. So I figured, okay, this is the less of two evils, because I was self-medicating my social anxiety with wine before events, drinking during events, sometimes over drinking, throwing up, having alcohol poisoning. Like, that wasn't doing me any good. That wasn't very healthy. And so I took it upon myself. I truly believe humans know best. Mothers know best. I listened to myself. I listened to my heart. I did what cannabis teaches us, which is following your inner guidance, listening to that higher self, realizing that you can use cannabis for wellness, and you can use it intentionally. You can use it beautifully. It can bridge the gap between other problems that you didn't realize that maybe you had. It helped heal so much trauma for me. It's helped heal PTSD for me. It's helped heal postpartum depression for me. It is a tool for my confidence. It's a tool for my bravery. It's an all-encompassing tool. So it really is really about how we use it, and the mindfulness that goes attached to it. And if we meditate, oh my gosh, can we become unstoppable? Meditation taught me about manifestation. I realized that I could co-create with cannabis, co-create with myself, co-create with this universe, and really make these powerful moves, you know. And I not to be boastful or braggy, but I've been able to accomplish all the things I've wanted to in life so far, from playing in rock and roll bands to this, to what else is going to be next. You know, I've been a event planner for Make-A-Wish Foundation. That's just such a healing lifestyle too. I've been able to co-create with cannabis and bring forth all these wonderful, beautiful things. The home I currently live in with my family, the conversations I get to have with you, the people that will listen to this and their lives will be changed and influenced in a positive way, in a healthy way. You know, we need more of that. Where are these people that are making health and wellness normalized and making it, you know, socially acceptable to be like, hey, we should be more mindful of how we consume cannabinoids. And let's talk about other cannabinoids besides THC. Yes, THC is lovely, but we know so much about it, you know, and even though we don't know so much, we still know enough. Let's let other cannabinoids shine. Let's get to know THCV, which is less psychoactive. If you don't want to be high for an hour, guess what? After 10, 15 minutes, that change is gone. You're tickled. Your brain is tickled for a little bit. And by the time you're done with your cup of coffee, you're ready to go about your day. You have more energy. You're more satisfied. Your anxiety is probably lowered. You are also not wanting to eat your entire pantry. You know, I love cannabis, but I don't want to have to pay for all the groceries that it wants me to consume. And yes, there's nights where on Friday nights I will eat pizza and ice cream, and it's so much fun and all the munchies in the world. And that's great. But I also love the feeling I get when I'm, you know, consuming a CBD olive oil on my salad, and it's just those crunches, and you feel that hempy nuttiness on the salad, and you know your body's being nourished with superfoods, and it just feels so good too. And we need to recognize that part of the industry is just as valuable. You know, I think it really just comes back to us being able to open up the third eye and connecting with what our bodies were meant to connect with. Our true selves, when we're feeling elated, when we're feeling blissed out, we're happy for others' success. We want our friends and family to succeed. We're not bitter. We're not jealous. We're complimenting strangers. We're more lighthearted to our children. We're cleaning up our houses. We're doing those dishes. We're maybe putting on a little bit of lipstick that day and doing those things that just make us feel so good. And we're vibrating at a high frequency. And when we're making lifestyle choices that aren't so positive and we're doing things that aren't so fulfilling for our soul, then we're nitpicking at our children. We're nitpicking at strangers. We're nitpicking at ourselves. We're shameful. We're not helpful. And we don't want anyone to succeed. We're jealous. We're rageful. We don't do anything to help ourselves, and we don't do anything to help one another. And that is not what this plant is intended for. When we use it with the intention, it goes to the frequency that's needed, and everything else just falls into place. It really starts to create that mind, body, spirit connection. And then we start to vibrate at the frequency that's who our higher selves are supposed to be. That's why I feel like it's called getting high. I truly believe words mean everything. It doesn't mean you're high like you are when you're high on other drugs. It is a highness that is indescribable unless you can experience it. And when you dial in on your cannabinoids and you find that perfect match and you feel that homeostasis, it is like, I just want to bottle this up and drink it all the time. You know, when you get that sweet spot, when you hit the right amount of tea that morning and the right amount of CBD or CBN or CBG, whatever floats your boat, and you're just, boom, you become an unstoppable rocket. And that's what we're supposed to feel. We're not supposed to feel this jealous rage of our cubicle friend. We're not supposed to, I'm not going to talk about, that person's success because, geez, I shouldn't even congratulate them. I'm just pissed off. That's not what we're supposed to vibe at. If this industry is going to survive and we're really going to be breaking the stigma, we need to change how we think and feel about this plant, about one another, about what the possibilities of this industry can bring. Don't limit ourselves. We can be greater than the alcohol industry, greater than the plastics industry, greater than big pharma. If we use our bodies and minds right, and we decide that meditation should be a daily practice, just like our cannabinoids. Meditation can happen when we're doing dishes, when we stop and we realize that we have a human connection with ourselves and our bodies, and it's so temporary. And we're so lucky to have that moment, to be able to do dishes. We're so lucky to be able to be clothed in this t-shirt at this time in 2021 and have our health and wellness and just pause for those moments. That's what's going to bring us bliss. This world is a crazy place, and it's always going to be. It's not going to stop. It's not going to get any easier. We just have to get stronger. And how do we do that? We empower ourselves with mindfulness. We empower ourselves with meditation. Ask any successful human what their daily practice is. Every single one I've ever met meditates daily. From scientists to celebrities, they all take a moment to pause and realize that we are so tiny, but we are also so powerful. We have to remember that. That's what cannabis is. It's so tiny. It's such a tiny seed, but look at that seed. Look what it grows to. Look what it does. That little seed heals bodies and minds and souls. We are that little seed as well. We have the power to heal mind, body, and soul, but we need to understand it as well. We need to remember that. We need to remember who we are and why we came here. We need to remember why cannabis is here. We need to go back and remember it all. Yes, we can make money with cannabis, but let's do it mindfully. Let's do it with intention. Let's do it for the reasons that Rastafari wants us to do it. Please remember your roots. And if you don't, like I said, then do the education, because it's up to us. Destigmatization starts at home, just like ignorance. Remember that. I have to meditate first thing in the morning, because if I don't, I'm a very energetic person. I'm very type A, and I need to get grounded in gratitude right away. I have this sign behind me that says stay grounded for a reason. So when I walk into my office every morning, okay, it's your reminder. I recommend to people, if you need some sort of, I'm a visual learner, and I'll forget. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind. It's just how I am. So if you need to do a little Post-it note on your mirror in the morning, or a little lipstick note, or a little expo pen, good morning, beautiful. Don't forget to meditate. Let's pause and take 10 deep breaths, or whatever you want to write a message. Maybe change it weekly for yourself, or monthly for yourself, or whatever you feel is good. But everybody has a few minutes to breathe every day. And believe it or not, even that is meditation. So closing your eyes while you're at the mirror in the bathroom grab the sink if you want to. If you want to feel a grounding position, it doesn't have to always be lotus pose. You don't have to be if you want to chant, do it, but it can be part of your routine, as simple as being in the present moment in your bathroom. And I personally love listening to like binaural beats while I'm meditating. I like wind instruments and chimes and all those. I try and change it up. It's just me. I like music. I like sounds. And then sometimes I just want to go up on my rooftop and just listen to the sounds of cars going to work in the morning, and wishing those people a good day, and wishing myself a good day, and everybody that feels what I'm feeling right now in my energy frequency. I want them to feel that love. If it's my neighbors, if it's someone walking down the street, I just send it out. So you can do those things. It's just so simple. It doesn't have to be lighting candles and getting this Palo Santo out and all of that craziness. It can be just as simple as sending love to 3 friends that day, being in that gratitude, taking a moment to thank your body. Today I don't have any cuts or bruises. I'm so grateful. My body feels good. Being mindful of where you want your energy to go today. Okay, today I have a big interview. I hope the interviewee has a great day. I hope I have a great day and everyone arrives safely to the building. Taking those moments to just setting intentions is also meditation too. It doesn't have to be, like I said, a grand big thing. I think people are intimidated. They feel like they need to sit in silence. They feel like they need to do it for an hour. Meditation can be done in a few minutes, a few breaths, a few moments, and in just with you and in silence. And it's so important just to remember that we are human every single day, and to forgive ourselves for our mistakes, forgive ourselves for our flaws, to realize that, cannabis is a forgiving plant. Think about how good you feel once it's in your body. She goes in there and is like, cleans up house like a housekeeper, and do that with yourself too. Make sure you're also doing housekeeping on yourself. And that's what meditation is. And I know you can agree, Hazel, because you meditate as well. It's a personal housekeeping. Check your body, scan your body. Is there a pain that day? Do I need to send love to my shoulders? Am I feeling extra tense? And why am I feeling tense? Am I feeling the weight of a bill coming up? Or am I worried about a payment not going through? What is it about me that has to be released to realize, what? The money is coming. It's already here. It's whatever you need to tell yourself to realize that it's fine. Everything is fine and you're taken care of in that moment, and just realize that you are okay and you're safe. One would think that, and we have to use these terms loosely now, I know, otherwise I'm going to get the comments in the podcast, because we all have professionals listening now, or everyone thinks they're a professional these days, myself included. I'm just kidding. But here's the disclaimer. We're going to use these terms loosely because I do realize, yes, sativa, indica, let's think sativa is going to be those energetic strains for those of you that are not as familiar or don't want to use those terms. Indica is going to be more body highs. I'm going to just be the wrench in this whole thing. I'm a big hybrid person because once again, body-mind connection. I want to have that body-mind connection. Or I also love like hemp strains. I like smoking hemp also that has other herbs and blends inside, like chamomile, hibiscus, things like that, where you can add little herbs to set more intentions, because different herbs also have intentions with it. If you don't realize that, look that up too. That's another way you can add a really fun practice to your meditation is, I'm trying to bring in more kind of fun little woo-woo to it. The plants, each plant that you add in addition to the hemp or the cannabis, you will also get other healing properties and other spiritual elements that are attached to these plants as well. So it's just a fun way to add to your little healing process and to all of that. But if you want to, sometimes I feel like with sativas personally, and this is myself personally, I'm feeling too movement in my, I want to get up and move too much. So I personally like a hybrid or indica based, body based, because of the fact that I want to feel that grounding. I'm high all the time, and naturally I'm a very high energy person. So I want to be that sedated, give me that CBN, give me those humulines or not humulines, but like myrcene, and just really calm me down, get me down to that earthy ground, so that when I am meditating, I'm feeling one with earth. I feel like I'm always floating. So I want to be brought back down. But those of you listening, you might be really chill all the time. Maybe you want to open up a little bit and you want to bring yourself a little higher up. then I would say go towards those energy, mind, focus, clarity, those kind of strains, sativa strains. So do your research. That's what's so great about Royal Queens. They always talk about what the effects you're going to feel. They share what other people have felt about the plant as well. And so utilize these tools that the websites and the apps have, and educate yourself. Knowledge is power. This is how we're going to break the stigma. When we, meet a family member and they go, oh, I would never use cannabis because I don't want to lay on the couch all day. Well, you can go, oh, grandma, did you know there's these wonderful little mints? They're very light and they keep you focused and they give you a little bit of energy so you can clean your house and you're going to feel so great and you're going to have less bodily pains afterwards. And it's just lovely. Try them. And isn't that so much better than saying, grandma, you don't know what you're talking about? We really, it's up to us. We have to be crusaders, we have to be mindful about how we talk about this plant. Are we calling it medicine? Are we using it as medicine? Are we just taking the highest THC because we feel like that's the most beneficial to ourselves? That's not the case. I'm not going to discredit the high THC content. I believe science has a purpose. Let's continue to research. Let's continue to make Frankenstein strains and figure out really great, healing benefits and new cannabinoids along the way. However, let's also be mindful about why we're using cannabis. Are we using cannabis because we have a lot of anxiety? Then maybe sativa-based strains are not going to be doing us so well. Maybe a Jack Herer isn't going to serve us so much, Yeah. Maybe we want to look for more of an OG, an SFVOG or something, so that we're feeling a little bit more grounded and not so spun out. It's just adding to us. It's like drinking 3 cups of coffee when you're a high anxiety person. You don't want to do that to yourself. You might do it to yourself and regret it later, but dial in and not try other things. People are so open to being hungover and trying to drink the next day or the next weekend. But if we have one bad trip or one bad product, we never want to try the cannabis again. Yeah. We need to be more open-minded with cannabis as we are with alcohol, as we are with food. How many times have we had food poisoning? We didn't give up on food again. Still went back and had sushi a month later. We still went back and ate at that deli. So we need to be as conscious with cannabis as we are with everything else. And we need to treat it with the same respect as we do everything else. We need to keep our eyes and minds open because this plant opens eyes and it opens minds. Yes, I really love that they're already reaching outside the box. Meditation is not a one-size-fits-all. Yes, people love transcendental meditation and they want to float and they want to do it for hours and they want to do all that. And that's lovely. And you can get to that point, but we don't need to run a marathon right away. We can do sprints. And as I mentioned earlier, it can happen during dishes, even with foods. If you, a little gummy, next time you eat a gummy, a cannabis gummy or a CBD gummy, think about how it feels in your hands. Think about how it's in your mouth and the granules on the outside. Taste the sugar, taste the sour. How does it feel? Can you taste cannabis at all? Can you taste the plant in there? Or is it just the sweetness? And what is the sweetness that you taste? And think about the hands that make it as you're eating it and really get mindful while you're even just eating. We all love to eat, as most of us do for the most part. I can generalize and say that. We enjoy eating. So why not be mindful while we're eating? And that's meditation too, believe it or not. Just honing in on if you're rolling a joint, the paper you're touching, the way the grinder feels when you're grinding. It doesn't have to be this monstrous moment. It can just be in the moments where you're just being mindful in your day and you're just listening to that grinding and listening to the human experience and being grateful the fact that you have that plant, because there's so many of us around the globe that are without it every single day that need it. And we have to remember that too, and just stay in gratitude for the days that we do have it and send love to the ones that don't. And be grateful for the times that we have those days that we can heal with plant medicine, because there's so many of us that don't have that privilege. And hopefully we can make these wonderful changes together and bring forth cosmic healing, health, and wellness all over the world.